The LP is definitely, we call ourselves right down the middle of the road. We don't believe in everything the Democrats. We don't believe in everything with the Republicans. We are more on the social line with the Democrats and more on the economics with the Republicans. We believe in a little bit of, both what they stand for, but we are our own entity of believing, personal freedom, free market economics, right straight down the middle of the road.
I got to tell you, for me, it's a little bit difficult to contrast. I'm in preparation for the show. I did a couple print copies from the Libertarian of Michigan website, and one of them is kind of what you were talking about, is positions often held by libertarians, the traditional middle of the road, and it shows blue on one side for the left and red on the other side for right, etc. And I'm reading through it, and I got to kind of qualify myself a little bit, because I've been a Republican most of my adult life. But having said that, I've been what I refer to as a liberty Republican. So when I'm reading things like taxpayer-funded faith-based charities that are listed here in the Republican column, or the held by the right, I should say, that's not something I would have subscribed to. And I chaired the Republican Liberty Caucus of Michigan. In fact, I founded it, and then it came back a couple different times to serve as chair over the years. But, so when I read down the list, these things are not like pure, if you're a Democrat, you're absolutely on path with this, or if you're a Republican, you're absolutely on path with that. Does that make sense? I'm trying to communicate a little bit of confusion on my part, maybe.
No. There's so many aspects involved in all these issues, and libertarians believe in personal freedom. We believe in self-governing. We don't believe in taking from Peter to pay Paul. So there's so many. Yes, I'm looking at what I brought up, what you're speaking of here, and it is kind of broad, but generally, we believe. Not in, like I said, not in everything the Democrats do and not in everything the Republicans do, but when it comes to like the taxpayer funded faith-based for charities, our tax money, I understand, does good and goes out and we can help other people, but there are so many charities with donations and with the communities involving themselves and getting together. We can personally go out and help, and it doesn't have to come from taxpayers. I got to tell you, you and I agree on that one. And my attitude is that in fact, the last study on a federal level I saw showed the federal government operating with an 87% administrative cost. So that didn't make me in a hurry to give them $1, hoping that they would do something for charity with it. Absolutely.
It makes no sense to me. And so we've got some commonality that we agree on a handful of these. I think that an example is what I found, at least when I chaired the Republican Liberty Caucus, was that there were a lot of conservatives who supported a very strong military. And it seemed that whenever I had an opportunity to set down strong conservatives and talk about what we're actually doing with the funding that we're demanding for that military, then all of a sudden we have an agreement. For instance, I put on my Facebook page today a bit about the fact that we've got 2 million civilian and armed U.S. armed services personnel stationed in over 1,000 U.S. bases on 150 sovereign nation soil. Those things to me make no sense at all. And most conservatives, if you show them the math, will say, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, my sister, matter of fact, just left the 11th of January for 6 months, and she's based over in Afghanistan. Personally, I think libertarians believe more in pulling back and protecting our grounds, not everybody else's grounds. Now, I understand there's, issues over there that could harm us, and we do have to look at those, but I do not believe that we should be spending all this money and have all these people over there for really no reason at this point.
Which one of our founders said, trade with all and allegiance with none, referring to foreign countries?
Right.
I think those are, to me, important fundamental common senses. But those are areas, to me, what I've often said, that at the bottom of every problem I've ever encountered, be it business or politics, there was a lack of communication. So if we can find a way to articulate the commonalities that I think both actually the left and the right, as articulated by you here in this document, there's a lot more agreement than I think that people realize when we can step back from the party dogma.
There are so many people out there that have such a mind of just only a two-party system. And, there's a few little tests that we have that you can take, and the people will find that they're more libertarian than they believe or than they thought they would be. And it's quite shocking to them because, like, again, I said that they just have the two-system party in their head, not thinking they're outside the box and what other people have to offer and what they can do.
What do you say to the people, myself on occasion have said this, so I want to throw myself in when I say the people, but what do you say to the people that say that a three-party system will only cause the least viable or the least desirable to win?
That's it's not a hard question, but you have to teach them. You can't preach to people. I believe you have to teach them. We have certain classes and certain things that you need to sit them down, understand what they believe in and what their philosophy is and why they believe in it, and then show them what we have to offer or what we can do and where we stand. It's hard to switch people over. I feel like I've been preaching over the last year and trying to change my thought process. And don't preach to people. Teach them what the libertarians stand for, how we can come together and unite, like you said, with communication. It's all about communication, not who's right and who's wrong and who's left and who's right. And it's about coming to an agreement down the middle that's best for everybody.
I think I see that. But when I look at the math of it, Danae, I'm a little bit truly, I've been concerned for a long time. That's why I went to the Republican Liberty Caucus with the goal of trying to steer the GOP back to a libertarian or classical liberal foundation. Now, that's what I've invested, roughly 10 years into. But, before we started today's talk, I mentioned to you that I know Nick Sundquist, who was a candidate in the 91st State House District here in Muskegon County, and he ran as a Libertarian Party candidate. And in that race, there was also Holly Hughes, who was an incumbent Republican state representative, and then there was Colleen Lamont, who is now the incumbent Democrat serving the 91st. And the reason I'm bringing this race up is that, frankly, what concerns me is that, first off, I'm not a big party fan at all. You have to understand that. Anyone that's listened to this show or knows me personally knows that I'm with George Washington on this. I think party politics will be the death of our country.
Oh, yeah.
I genuinely mean that. So I'm not telling you these things as an entrenched Republican or Democrat or anything else. To me, some of it is just math. And what concerns me is that, an example before I even get into the math, the Socialist Party of America, the Communist Party of America, those folks get very involved in Democrat primary process, and then they don't run their own candidate. They just endorse whoever the Democrat is in the end. They endorsed John Kerry. I was able to say it without putting the John effing Kerry part in there. I was kind of proud of myself for a second, and then I fell apart. But they endorsed him. They endorsed Igor. They endorsed all of these people along the path, including Premier Obama. And so when I sit back and look at the math, what concerns me about a three-party is what I mentioned, is that it seems like the math makes the least desirable a winner. So what I'm getting at slowly is, if we had a many-party system with a whole bunch of different candidates, when I say many, 4 or more, it seems like the math would be more complementary towards liberty, and less to the point right now where there's a lot of people that use political parties as an excuse not to pay attention to the issues. If it's a Democrat, they say, oh, he's a Democrat, he's got to be good. Or if it's a Republican, then he must be good because he's GOP. And we've got to find some mechanism, to my mind, that draws the electorate back to being involved enough to actually pay attention to the issues.
Well, and that's what I would love to see. I mean, in the perfect world, I would love to see candidates out there with no R, no D, no L, and actually stand on the issues, that they believe in, and then have people vote on the best candidate, not just because they're a Democrat, I'm voting for him automatically, no matter what the issues or what he stood for in regards to the issues. I would love to see how that would turn out, because I literally think a libertarian would come out ahead because of our philosophy and where we stand, and I believe that we are, again, we hit both sides. We're not just the right or just the left. We go straight down the middle, and I believe that people would actually see that and not just look at the party that they are representing.
I think there are some people. Does that make sense? It does, but there are some people that don't want to go down the middle. There are some people that, in
Absolutely.
fact, on all sides of this debate, we know that there will be someone that says, I'm going to stay exactly where I'm at on principle. And by the way, each time that you said, or even when I was reading your website, when you talked about the Libertarian Party being down the middle, I was a little bit taken back this morning when I was preparing for the show, because I remember people like Ronald Reagan, who, and I have to paraphrase, but he had said something along the lines of the foundation of conservatism is libertarianism. And frankly, that's the approach that in my years of, for lack of better words, activism, I had always just construed libertarianism as being center right and not center left. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I could see how you would get that out of it. I've only been chair since June, and just talking with people, it's amazing how they've construed what being a libertarian is. I think there's been people I've talked to and just thought it was a liberal thing. There's people I've talked to that, have had no clue that even a libertarian existed. So it's been really hard over, the last few months of getting us out there. And I think Gary Johnson was great for the Libertarian Party, helping people understand what libertarianism is, what we stand for, and getting the name out there in more households and more communities, and understand that there are other choices.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned Gary Johnson. I know Gary fairly well. I've met him a few times, specifically when I chaired the Republican Liberty Caucus of Michigan when he was still a Republican primary candidate. One of the things, though, that struck me about him, and I got to say it struck me about the libertarian movement in general, is that most of his dialogue, I listened to him speak a couple different times, about 45 minutes to an hour apiece, and most of it, or a great portion of it, seemed to center around the drug issue or the anti-drug law stance. And listen, I think that anybody who actually pays attention to the details has to conclude that we've lost the war on drugs and that it didn't make any sense to start it in the first place. Now, setting that issue aside, what struck me at the time listening to Gary, I like him a lot personally, but my mind kept telling me, Rome is burning and we're arguing about marijuana. Is this really what we need to do right now?
No. And that's been one of my biggest fights. It seems like a lot of our, not a lot, but a few of our candidates, that's what they wanted to make, their campaign all about. And that's what I, as a Michigan State Chair, was trying to draw back from. Talking about marijuana and talking about the drug war is not going to bring us volunteers. It's not going to bring us donations. It's not going to bring us groups. We need to be put ourselves up on a higher level and talk about the issues that are more at hand and not about the drug war. The drug war was lost, like you said, a long time ago. No matter how many things you put in place, how many rules, regulations, and guidelines, it doesn't get any worse or any less.
It's kind of ironic that we even touch on this, because a lot of times on this show we find ourselves lately talking about gun laws or coming gun laws. And if we set aside the drug war, we would find that the incidences of gun violence would dramatically plummet. while drug usage wouldn't go up. But, you know,
Right.
I mentioned earlier I wanted to talk about Nick Sundquist a little bit. And I do, like, listen, Nick is a personal friend of mine, so I want to make sure that anyone listening knows that I'm not being disparaging. But the math of that race that he was in, there was, between Holly Hughes and Colleen Lamont, there were 333 votes that caused Colleen Lamont to win and caused Holly Hughes to lose. You have to understand, I'm not a Holly Hughes fan. She's a, for lack of better words, in my mind, she leaned vastly closer to left than I would, although she was a Republican. What concerns me, though, is that no matter what I think of Holly Hughes, she's vastly closer to my ideology and what I think is best for our community than is Colleen Lamont. Mm-hmm. But regardless, 333 votes separate them, while Nick drew 1,856. Now, I don't hope to think that he caused the loss, but math still becomes math. I know that some of those 1,856 would have voted for Holly, and some of them Colleen. Without having divine intervention, we'll never know what the math would have been without him. But I got to tell you that Colleen is not going to be an asset to jobs and those kind of things in this community. So what's your thought on that?
Well, you know, again, I hate to think, and I know a lot of people do think that when you put a libertarian on the ballot, it's going to sway either party, and it's going to take votes possibly away from the candidate that the community might think is better for them. I know Nick, not personally probably like you. I think he's a great gentleman, great guy. He's great for the Libertarian Party. And unfortunately, you're right, it does come down to numbers, but, you know, I'm going to side and always say I want the Libertarian out there to do the very best they can and to take as many numbers as they can, whether we win or lose. The more we get out there and the more we involve ourselves. Like I told you before, we had so many candidates running, and being on that side of the state, I let my political director that lived in that area handle more of his campaign. So I'm not too familiar on all exactly what happened, but you're right. It does boil down to numbers, and we'll never know if Nick was not in the race what would have happened.
True enough. Danae, we're going to go to a break, but let's hold these thoughts because we still got some meat on the table for when we come back.
Wonderful.
Make a run for the border. Taco Bell is waiting to cook for you. Delicious tacos, nachos, chalupas, gorditas, quesadillas, or try their famous grilled stuffed burrito for only $1.99. Make it a combo for only $3.49. Their large variety includes specialties, combos, supreme salads, and kids' meals. Taco Bell, the best fast food north of the border. So walk in or drive up. Visit all of the Taco Bells in West Michigan. Open Sunday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. Taco Bell's open Fridays and Saturdays from 10 a.m. until 1 a.m.
$5,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the suspect or suspects responsible for the death of Alvaro Lora. Alvaro was 72 years old, was found by his daughter on April 27th inside his home in Muskegon, brutally stabbed and beaten to death. And still the homicide remains a mystery. Please help Alvaro's family for justice. Anyone with information is urged to contact the Muskegon Heights Police Department at 231-733-8900 or Silent Observer at 72-CRIME.
Bad boys, what you want, what you want, what you gonna do when Sheriff John Brown come for you?
Call Bad Boys Bail Bonds, open 24/7, 365 days a year. Agents statewide and nationwide. We do 10% bonds for less. Call toll free 866-728-6400. And remember, if we can't get you out, you ain't getting out. Payment plans available. Call now, 866-728-6400. Classic Computer Sales and Service. They buy, sell, trade, repair, and upgrade. New custom-built computers, 3-year guarantee, excludes laptops. Or your computer tuned up with more memory, hard drive, or maybe a DVD burner installed for $49.95. Need cables, power supply, or get the computer built the way you want it. You can do it at Classic Computer in their new location, 1921 Apple Avenue, Suite B. Call 773-5957. Classic Computer with hometown quality service.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Renegade River Show, and my name is Mike Hewitt. And today we're on the line with Danae Rockman-Moon. She is chairperson of the Libertarian Party of Michigan. Welcome back, Danae.
Thank you. Thank you.
Danae, first off, I'm having a great time interviewing you today. I appreciate you coming on. Tell me, though, give me a little hint. What's in the pike coming up for chair race, or not for chair races, for candidate pursuits and all that? How does LP of Michigan go about canvassing for candidates?
Well, there's a couple different ways. We actually have a website that everyone can go on and inquire volunteers. So over the last 6 months, I've received I think it's right around 17 to 20 people that have actually touched base with us saying that they would like to run for a certain race. What happens right now is I'm working with my political director. We're going to be setting up a meeting, I'm hoping towards the end of February, to get all these candidates that are interested in one room, sit down talk with them, let them understand, what's ahead, what's in store. And we have different workshops for them. But we're still trying to figure out if we're going to be running anybody in this year's special elections, and we're going to start gearing up for 2014. We want to get some really strong candidates out there. I think our last elections, we did great. We had a lot of strong candidates, a lot of active candidates. I know in the past few years what has deterred people from the Libertarian is, they were just putting people on the ballot and not actually running active races. We had a lot of active races this time, which I thought helped our party and our representation of what we're doing and what our goals are. Go ahead. Yeah, let
me just stop you for a second, because I want to draw a special point to something you just said. One of the perceptions of people like me looking in, if you will, for lack of better words, at what the LP has been doing, is it felt like in the past that the LP was just seeking names to put on the ballot, and that was it. There was no rationale behind the names. And so from our point, from the outsider looking in, it looked like a conglomeration of lesser than desirable candidates that seemed to have an extremely negative impact on LP. And so that's really what prompted me to ask the question today. Now, I know, like I mentioned, Nick Sonnquist is just a tremendous gentleman and a patriot. So, I mean, if he's an example of what's to come, then I think the LP is going to start changing its tact and positioning well. But what say you on those points I've made?
No, I think you're absolutely right, and that's what I'm gearing to try to change. Unfortunately, people look at the cover of a book and not actually the content inside. We are trying to get more candidates that want to run active races. Unfortunately, like the Democrats and the Republicans, they have a lot more money, a lot more tools, and I'm trying to figure out a word to use, just more edge out there over the Libertarians, and that's what we're trying to change, our image and what we stand for. Now, unfortunately, come June, I could be voted out of the chair position, and I do not want to see that happen, because we have great things and great ideas and great people on board to change our image, to change what we stand for. And we're only going to be putting people in these races that want to run an active campaign, that want to get out and talk to the people, that want to go to town meetings, that want to put on a suit and tie and represent what a Libertarian stands for. Not somebody that's just going to be thrown on the ballot and you never hear from them. There's no press releases. They don't go to any activities. They don't fundraise. We are definitely moving in the right direction. I've seen, like I said, this past election, I've seen great things come out of it with only putting a certain amount of candidates out there. We don't need to fill every position. I feel we need to put ourselves in positions where we think we can win, where we have great candidates and representation. It's about representation and representing the party in the right way.
It is, and I have to tell you, it's kind of interesting. I've got a picture in my home office, and it's It's probably from the 1880s, 1890s era, and it's an old courthouse, and there's two people running for office out on the front steps, and the entire town is gathered on the dirt street in front of the courthouse, listening. The one candidate gives a spiel, and then the other candidate gives a spiel. The entire town is there to make a decision, and then they go off to vote. And that's so far removed from the reality of the electorate that we have right now. And having been a candidate my own self, one of the things I found most frustrating from the race was the lack of engagement or even remote interest on the part of most people that are eligible to vote. So, and an example of that, I know that Nick Sundquist would have worked very hard because that's his personality. Mm-hmm. But even as involved as I am, and even though I know him personally, I did not know he was a candidate. And you have to think about that for a minute. I mean, I'm running a radio show. I know him. I've known him for 10 years. And I know he's a hard worker, but as part of the electorate in total, the message did not get out that he was a candidate.
Right. Well, and like, again, it comes down to funding. We had, quite a bit of funds to work with. We put up some billboards, actually, in the Muskegon area. I'm not sure if you've seen one. But as a chair and running a whole state, it was very, very hard. I couldn't tell you how many times I would, proceed to our candidates and try to get them involved and active. But the candidate itself has to get out there and get in the media and, he knew you had a radio show. So I think that these candidates themselves, like I said, we're only going to be putting people in races that are actually going to get out there and get their names so people understand and know that there are more options for them to choose from and not just a Republican and a Democrat. We are looking at fundraising, and we've got a lot of donations coming in. So hopefully 2014 we're going to be able to get our name out there more than what we have in the past.
Do you think Ron Paul's candidacy on the Republican ticket helped or hurt the Libertarian Party?
I think it hurt us.
Yeah, I
think once, if you truly believe in something, you should stand where you believe in, not go to another party because you feel that the money and the representation of the name is going to get you more votes. It was a letdown. Well,
he's been a Republican congressman for a couple different runs at it. I think he had a senatorial bid in the past. His volunteers, as you know, were loyal to the point of being shrill. Mm-hmm. And I'm not entirely convinced that some of his, and not the lion's share, so please people don't misunderstand me, but I think some of his supporters hurt his candidacy in the cause of classical liberalism. So that's what made me ask what your feeling was. I know it had an impact on the Republican Liberty Caucus that I didn't think was a positive impact. So,
right. Now, going back to Gary Johnson, too, I was just on a call with him, well, not him, his team, but he's already started going around the states and doing a bunch of campus talks. And hopefully we're going to be able to get him to come to Michigan. We're looking possibly towards maybe the end of May. And I think this is going to be great for the Libertarian Party, getting him out to all the campuses and in the colleges, and I think that's going to help turn around the Libertarian Party and get people back involved where they need to be.
What kinds of things is he talking about? I'm trying to understand the point of his tour if he's not a candidate for anything.
He has not come out and said that he's going to be running again. I think he's just trying to, a lot of people get relaxed this time of year in regards to politics, and I think he's just trying to keep the libertarian philosophy out there and abroad, and just trying to, so it's not lost. It doesn't get lost in the mix of like a school summer vacation, and all of a sudden libertarians get forgotten about again, and we're starting fresh. He's going to help keep the media and the people excited.
Do you have any way of assigning a number? How many people in Michigan, as an example, refer to themselves or think of themselves as either libertarian or libertarian leaning?
No, I'm sorry, I don't have any numbers, but I can tell you that, we fought very, very hard to get Gary Johnson on the Michigan ballot. We were not successful. However, we fought very, much harder after that to make sure people were aware that he was a write-in candidate. And we actually broke, I guess, a record that for Gary Johnson to get the most votes as a write-in candidate for Michigan.
I've heard it. I've heard it said within meetings that I've been at. So very informal sayings. I want to stress that, but I have heard it said that the Libertarian Party has, over the years, really impacted negatively its branding, for lack of better words, and that it would really be able to push the needle forward if it reinvented itself with a different name. So, what is your thoughts on that?
I don't think it's so much of a different name. I think it's image. And that's what we're gearing towards, is a different image. Again, going back to, to get away from the marijuana issues and to go back to the fundamentals of politics, to the issues at hand, what people are interested in learning and knowing about. And I believe it's about image and rebranding ourselves, and that's really what Michigan is working on right now.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing. If you take most of the quotes of our founding fathers and look at them, they're classical liberal or libertarian. Yeah. If you change the language that they use to contemporary language and just put it on a bullet point, the average Michigan citizen for sure, but the average U.S. citizen would subscribe to them almost naturally. And so in the past, when we've looked at America and said America is center-right, that's such a silliness statement, because in truth, America is classical liberal, not modern liberal, not just what they are. They're Jeffersonian, but those words have kind of been skewed and their meanings have been changed. So nowadays, if I say classical liberal on my Facebook page, I have a lot of conservatives saying, "What do you mean liberal?" Well, it's not what I said. I said classical liberal. I said Jeffersonian. And then when I start defining what that means, then they calm down. But the very foundation of our words that we use to describe these things, the meanings and the words themselves have been kind of hijacked, for lack of better words.
Well,
and it makes it difficult for your party, as I see it, to get the message out.
Yes, it does. It does. And people, hear and read what they want to. So they could read something on our party page and take it from a whole new level to a different meaning instead of physically what it stands for. So, and back to the whole image part, in regards to, we went out and asked a lot of our members, a lot of people, what would get you to be more involved in the Libertarians? What would help? And that's what it boiled down to, is image. We have a brand new updated website coming up, hopefully April 1st. And I think that's going to help our image. We're trying to brand the Live Free Gary Johnson statement. We are, everybody comes together. We're just, it boils for us down to image and to get our name out there and people to look at us with more respect than they have in the past.
This is probably a silly question, but is there any relationship, or could there be a relationship between the LP and the Constitution Party?
I'm sure with the right communication, we could obviously work together. I don't think, I think some of their issues are, I haven't really read all on exactly what, and how they stand, because I know it seems like, as I've heard the constitutional candidate out there over the election period, when he talked, he kind of got away from the Constitution, so that would be a hard aspect to say unless we actually sat down and talked with him.
It seems to me, again, and my vantage of this is from the Republican Liberty Caucus, but it seems to me that even in RLC, there are issues that, as the chair, in that RLC as an organization just doesn't take a position on. For instance, abortion, because had we have gotten into some of those social issues, frankly, it would have fractured the groups, because there's a handful of them that are very passionate pro-life, and there's a handful that are very passionate pro-abortion, etc. And
Right.
so it seems to me, though, that the Constitution Party, at least on a fiscal level, shares some similarities with LP. Certainly not on a social level, but I'm still looking for different branding issues or means.
Right. And again, I put out a 2013 action plan to all of our members, newsletter members, volunteers, and we are starting to build our teams in regards to branding, candidates, fundraising. So, these next 6 months are really going to put a test, I think, to the Michigan Libertarian Party on what we can accomplish and what we can do, and I see nothing but great things for us in the future.
Very, very nice. We're gonna go to another break, Danae, but when we come back, let's kick around the future a little bit more, because you've got me a little bit excited on some of the plans that you've touched on.
Sure.
We're going to go to break, and we'll be back shortly.
Okay, great.
$5,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the suspect or suspects responsible for the death of Alvaro Lora. Alvaro was 72 years old, was found by his daughter on April 27th inside his home in Muskegon, brutally stabbed and beaten to death. And still the homicide remains a mystery. Please help Alvaro's family for justice. Anyone with information is urged to contact the Muskegon Heights Police Department at 231-733-8900 or Silent Observer at 72-CRIME.
Bad boys, what you want, what you want, what you gonna do when Sheriff John Brown come for you?
Call Bad Boys Bail Bonds, open 24/7, 365 days a year. Agents statewide and nationwide. We do 10% bonds for less. Call toll free 866-728-6400. And remember, if we can't get you out, you ain't getting out. Payment plans available. Call now, 866-728-6400. Classic Computer Sales and Service. They buy, sell, trade, repair, and upgrade. New custom-built computers, 3-year guarantee, excludes laptops. Or your computer tuned up with more memory, hard drive, or maybe a DVD burner installed for $49.95. Need cables, power supply, or get the computer built the way you want it. You can do it at Classic Computer in their new location, 1921 Apple Avenue, Suite B. Call 773-5957. Classic Computer with hometown quality service.
Make a run for the border. Taco Bell is waiting to cook for you. Delicious tacos, nachos, chalupas, gorditas, quesadillas, or try their famous grilled stuffed burrito for only $1.99. Make it a combo for only $3.49. Their large variety includes specialties, combos, supreme, salads, and kids' meals. Taco Bell, the best fast food north of the border. So walk in or drive up. Visit all of the Taco Bells in West Michigan. Open Sunday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. Taco Bell's open Fridays and Saturdays from 10 a.m. until 1 a.m.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Renegade River Show, and my name is Mike Hewitt. And we're on today with Danae Rockman-Moon, chairperson of the Libertarian Party of Michigan. Danae, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Perfect. Hey, looking forward, kind of wanted to spend a little bit, our last segment, kind of to get a feeling for what direction the LP is taking from here forward. And you certainly talked about the chair. Not the chair, I keep saying that, the candidate aspects of it, but tell me about party structure in terms of congressional districts or counties. Is there any thought on the LP to start building its organization base that way?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Like I mentioned in the last segment, I put on a 2013 action plan, and with putting that out there, we actually received 4 people within a matter of a week and a half that had wanted to start up new affiliates. My goal is right now, some of our affiliates are covering quite large counties, and several counties at that. And we're trying to gear it towards having a affiliate in every county and gearing it towards a smaller aspect so more people get involved. I know that some of these places for our affiliates, you're asking people to drive an hour a night just to get to a meeting. So we're trying to structure it back on the smaller scale and the smaller level so more people have the opportunity of getting involved. And we talked about it was kind of like we've been restructuring and getting our volunteers actually out there doing items that we need. We opened up our Facebook to have a better forum. We're getting our new website up that is going to be more interactive with people, offer people more tools and understanding of in regards to the party. Instead of waiting until next year to speak with candidates and get our candidates out there with tools, we're starting a year in advance, a year and a half. There's a lot of great things that we have in store in regards to the Libertarian Party. Just accepting every invite to forums, to radio shows, colleges. We have our convention coming up June 15th, actually on your side of the state over there. It's about restructuring and getting more people involved and active and putting people in the right positions to be a positive aspect for the party.
Gaining or growing volunteers is a challenge for any political organization I've ever been involved in. But tell me this: when I look at at least the foundational portion, ideology of the LP, I see a strong Tea Party hint. And having been fairly involved in Tea Parties since their inception, it causes me to wonder if the LP is reaching out to Tea Parties, especially given the fact that most counties have some form of Tea Party gathering or group representation that are currently going with in active meetings.
Right. We have been in contact with a few, not many, and that is actually one of the items that is on the table for the LEC coming up. But I believe we need to reach out and work more and get involved and have some of these groups come together on the aspect that of the items that we agree upon. I think it would help and benefit both sides. But with the elections and with everything that had gone on the last few months, right now is when we're really trying to get out and get involved and get more active. The election took up a lot of time for everybody.
Yeah, I can tell you that when I wrote the novel and did a little bit of marketing for it, my own novel, one of the things I did as part of the marketing is I toured and gave a handful of presentations at actually at a lot of different Tea Party groups. And what I found interesting, and I find interesting with the LP, is that first off, there's a lot of commonality, way more than you might guess just by especially watching whatever the CNN happens to describe either group as. Mm-hmm. But the biggest thing is in fact, I remarked at the Tea Parties when I looked around, one of my concerns for them is that at 52, I'm at the younger end of their age spectrum. That's a concern for their future. But when I look at the LP, I see a whole bunch of young people, which is great, but it does not necessarily bring any kind of corporate knowledge about political fundraising, etc., to the table. And it seems to me that those two problems that those two groups have, especially sharing such common ideology in terms of Jeffersonianism, that there should be a link there.
Right. No, I agree. And that's definitely something that we can, touch upon to help. We are getting a lot of volunteers, but I can tell you right now, it ranges from high school. I mean, I'm even getting people from high school contacting me, high school all the way up, to retirees. So I think we have a great broad. Our LEC is a great broad of age group, different demographics, areas. And the more volunteers, I think, over the last 6 months have been actually volunteers that are geared towards campaign political finance, fundraising, and like I said, right now, in the next month or so, is when I've been working really hard with people to get different meetings and groups up involved and getting people more active and out there for us. And like you said, it does take the volunteers, and I'm getting a lot of volunteers that actually not just say they want to volunteer, but actually want to step up to the plate and do something.
No question. It takes volunteers. You mentioned early in the first segment, we talked about the funding differences between the GOP and LP or the Democrat Party, but one of the things that continues to strike me through my decades of volunteering is that, yes, money is a great asset, but in the end, the Republican Party or whoever it is that we're talking about need to have feet on the ground. And that's why I was pushing the county or even the congressional district structure for the LP, because inevitably, money aside, it still comes down to people.
Yes, it comes down to, door-to-door events, town halls, just being more personable on a level, not just Facebook and emails. And it takes a face-to-face and more personable to get people active, excited, and involved.
Absolutely. So
yep.
the very next step for you is to, because you got a whole bunch that are on your plate. How do you prioritize? What's the next step?
The next step is I have getting all my teams together and all my volunteers that I've received since the beginning of Christmas that have been wanting to get in regards to these teams and get their volunteers involved. My next step is working with each one over the next month to get them geared up and going and get things in place, like in regards to finance and campaign workshops and things on that sort.
When you and I talk, I'm referring to the page that I borrowed from your website, and we're talking about you folks being middle of the road. But when you look for growth, membership, volunteering, and inevitably voters, do you find that you're getting more people from GOP to be volunteer or more people from the Democrat Party, or is it pretty even split? Or what are you actually seeing in terms of people willing to put their feet on the ground for you?
I'm finding it's almost half and half down the middle. It just depends on what the issue is at hand that's all over the news, what gets people discouraged. I know there's so many people upset with both sides right now. And I'm finding that I don't care if you pay dues and want to become an LP member, but if you want to volunteer, I will take your help in any way and aspect. Most of the time, I like to have a couple phone conversations, meet with these people in person to get their feel and what they what they have to offer to the party. But at this point, I think it's a little of both. I mean, everybody's so upset, and this is a great opportunity for the Libertarians to get out there and to draw new members.
Tell me, I'm I don't know how to ask this. If I were a Democrat right now, I don't know. I don't know why I would be upset. What's to be upset for the average Democrat right now? I mean, they've got the presidency, they've got the Senate. It looks like they're doing okay.
Well, yes, but I don't know about you, but I know my paycheck was quite a bit less. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are not very happy in regards to the taxation and things on that sort. I think there's a lot of Democrats that I guess I don't really ask why they're unhappy. I just look at the issues of why they're coming to me and what they would like to do for us. So
I wasn't trying to put you on the spot, but
no, you're fine.
It seems like, yes, my check got smaller, but if I were a Democrat, that's what I would have expected, given that's what I voted for. That's what I'm trying to add up.
That's the thing. I think they were preached a lot, and what was preached is not exactly what has happened. And there's a lot of people that are upset.
So class envy doesn't work so well in reality, is what you're saying?
Right, exactly.
Tell me this, Danae, how if a listener wants to get in touch with the LP of Michigan and wants to become active with you, or wants to just maybe ask some questions and learn more, what should they do to get a hold of you? What's the next way to contact your group?
Well, right on our website, there is right on the very front page of the homepage. There's a volunteer icon that they can click on. That all they do is fill out their information, and as soon as they hit send, it goes right to my personal email. My concept is I touch base with everybody within 24 to 48 hours. I say the 48 hours because don't forget I am a working individual. I put in 50 hours a week. I have kids and family, so I try to prioritize it within a 48-hour period. And everybody gets either an email, phone call or personal contact with somebody from the LAC, and that's how you start. You just contact us, we contact you, and find what you'd like to do to help the party.
Other than my sister, who's probably listening in Las Vegas, Nevada on iHeartRadio, everybody else is right here in West Michigan listening to the show. And so I'm aware that there is a Libertarian Party of West Michigan. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Okay. And will I find them, or will our listeners find them by going to LP of Michigan, or is there a separate website, or how does that work?
No, it's all on our website. If you go to the website, at the very top, it says organizations, and underneath organizations, we have a list of affiliates. You click on that, it shows all of our affiliates and the counties that they cover, the chair, the vice chair, who sits on their count or who sits on the affiliates, their emails, phone numbers, every contact information you need is right on the site.
Very, very nice. Let me. We've kind of kicked things around for an hour. We've got just a couple, maybe a minute left. Tell me, is there any final messages you got for us?
Just that, I'd like to tell anyone that is interested in the party, please don't hesitate to contact us. We won't press you to become a member. Just, we'll answer any questions that you have. And, I think that we have a lot to offer, and there's more than, just a two-party system.
Very nice. Thank you very much, Chairman Dene, and thank you, listeners.
Thank you very much.
Make a run for the border. Taco Bell is waiting to cook for you. Delicious